Sleeping and dreaming are one of the most fascinating yet mysterious aspects of existence. As humans, we know we need sufficient sleep at night in order to feel like our bodies are healthy and fully functioning. But what does that actually mean? There are still many mysteries to be solved, but today I'm going to discuss what researchers and scientists do know about this brain state that we call sleep. I somewhat feel like a hypocrite making this video due to the fact that throughout my childhood, even up till now, I never really had a good sleep schedule. I would go to bed around 1 to 4 a.m. and occasionally would pull an all-nighter. For what reason, you ask? Good question. I don't have a solid answer other than the fact that I never realized just how important sleep is and would much rather binge watch TV shows. But as a college student, sleep should be one of your top priorities, and if you're watching this video after midnight, get your ass to sleep. You definitely need full rest to be able to learn new material and to be able to consolidate that information later on. In a study that I learned in class, we looked at the consequences of sleep deprivation and learning. The control group slept for a healthy 8 hours, and the experimental group were sleep deprived for an entire night. After, both groups had to learn new facts and be able to recall them later on. As you probably hypothesized, the sleep deprivation group did way worse than the control group, a deficit by 40%. This is because the hippocampus, which is like a storage box for information, is already full when you're sleep deprived and you're no longer able to receive new information. On the other hand, while you're asleep, specifically during stage 2 of non-rapid eye movement sleep, there are brain waves called sleep spindles that act as file transfers, and they clear out the hippocampus of memories and information stored while you were awake. It's like your brain reservoir being emptied to be able to acquire fresh information. So here I am, telling you how important sleep is to be able to learn new information, but as you might have guessed, sleep is also essential for consolidating those new memories. In a similar study to the previous one, researchers looked at the effects of alcohol and how it can affect your ability to consolidate information that you've learned in the day. In this study, participants underwent the complex cognitive test. The participants had to learn a new artificial grammar made of logic symbols and were later tested on it. The control group got normal 8 hours of sleep, while the 2 experimental groups were given alcohol after learning. I'm kind of jealous, but anyways, the first experimental group were given alcohol on the first night of learning this new grammar, and the second group was given alcohol after the third night of learning. And as you might have guessed, the groups given alcohol performed significantly worse than the control group after being tested. However, it's not the alcohol itself that's causing bad performance on the tests, but rather it's the byproduct that's produced during metabolism of the alcohol. The aldehydes and ketones produced are what suppresses and blocks REM sleep, which is essential for memory consolidation. This shows that memory consolidation doesn't just take one night of sleep after learning, but your brain is continually processing that information nights after. One solution? Just drink alcohol in the morning so it doesn't interfere with your sleep. Anyways, sleep isn't just essential for remembering, but it can also be used to forget certain things, sort of like a mental aid. Professor Matthew Walker calls sleep overnight therapy. You know when you confide in a friend after something tragic or bad happens, and they say, it just takes time. You're probably rolling your eyes over how cliche this is, but it truly does take time to process the event that happened. Consider this mango to represent a memory of an event. The pit in the middle is the memory itself, and the mango are the emotions associated with that specific memory. When you're sleeping, the skin of the mango is essentially slowly being stripped in a process called depotentiation. This happens specifically during REM sleep, where stress chemicals such as noradrenaline and serotonin are turned off to allow the brain to process the memory without these stress interferences. Eventually, you'll just be left with the pit of the mango, the memory itself, but now the memory won't trigger an emotional response when you're awake. The more emotional an event is, the bigger the mango. This also acts as a marker of importance to tell your brain that this memory might be more important. Keep in mind, just like memory consolidation, this doesn't happen overnight. It just takes time. Now, onto another fascinating aspect of sleep, dreaming. Dreams are like movies that play inside of our minds that contain images of people, objects, places, and things that we know. But what exactly are they, and how do they arise? Dreams actually occur during all stages of sleep, but they are most prominent and vivid during rapid eye movement sleep. There's a region in our brain called the brainstem, which is like the powerhouse of the brain. And during REM sleep, it sends signals to the thalamus, which acts as a gate that's opened up, and information is sent throughout the brain to activate certain regions. Regions such as the motor cortex, visual cortex, hippocampus, cingulate cortex, and amygdala are all activated, similarly to when you're awake. But the region responsible for logic and reasoning, which is the lateral prefrontal cortex, is deactivated, which explains why some dreams are really wild and bizarre and don't make any sense. But do those dreams mean anything? As humans, we try to pick out any hidden meanings or interpretations behind those dreams. But from a current scientific standpoint, dreams aren't really anything but a byproduct of rapid eye movement sleep. Although sometimes we can interpret our dreams to have profound meaning, it's rather on an individual basis on how well we connect to those dreams. I see dreams as wild abstractions that our brains create to represent our perception of the world. As an example, I had a dream about my grandmother who passed away recently, and all I remember from that dream is an image of her in the kitchen, opening the fridge and then pausing for a moment to smile at me. In my head, I wanted to think that it was her soul making a visit and to remind me that everything will be okay. But again, from a scientific point of view, it's most likely that I'm still processing that event and those certain emotions attached to that event. In conclusion, getting a good night's rest is essential for us to be healthy, mentally and physically. I know this might be easier said than done, but try putting away the Netflix, YouTube, Reddit, or any social media at an earlier time this week and get a full night's rest. I guarantee that you will feel so much better about life, have more positive interactions between yourself and other people, and will be much more energized. Thank you so much for listening.